Welcome back to the Wichita Toy Train Club YouTube channel. I'm Zachary. Behind the camera we have Chris, and today we're going to take a look at Lionel's new legacy Veranda Turbine. So today we're going to look at a Veranda Turbine. The Veranda Turbine was Union Pacific's second generation of GTELs. They were gas turbine electric locomotives. So they actually had a big turbine engine in there that ran the electric generator for all the traction motors in the trucks. This, like I said, was second generation, built about 1954. They had about 4,500 horse, and these specific ones were nicknamed the Veranda. They had a traditional car body style front with the external walkways that you would see on a more modern diesel electric locomotive. They were designed, built to be a helper or have helpers that were originally steam, so they ran with big boys, Challengers, and all the way up to the retirement into about 63 and 64, they actually ran with a lot of the newer diesel electric locomotives. If you're looking for some more information on Union Pacific's GTELs, be sure just go out to Google. You'll find more information than you would ever want to know. There's like 3 different generations. It'd be way more information than you would ever want to know for me to talk about for way too long. So now, Lionel's rendition. Lionel has some history with the Veranda. The last time the Veranda was done was actually 1998 when it was cataloged. I'm pretty sure it was 98, it was in the late 90s. Been Lionel's first die-cast locomotive, if I remember correctly. It was actually, so it'd be the first one that got done overseas. It was one that they attempted to do here in the States, but they could never get the die-cast molding to come out right. That's, again, a whole nother history lesson that if you want some more information on, there's other sources. So the current rendition is from Lionel's 2021 Volume 1 catalog. There was a number of different road names that they did. There was all but 2 prototypical UP versions. We have number 69 and number 61 that was done prototypically, and a slew of fantasy paint schemes. A lot of them look cool, a lot of them questionable. That's up for you to decide. So some stats and facts on the locomotive itself. It is equipped with Lionel's legacy control system, so this is completely capable with, of course, the current Cab 2 and the Base 2. They're soon to be released. Base 3 will also work with that. If you have an original Cab 1 and Cab 1 base, feel free to run it with that. Or if you don't have either and you can't find anything, you can use it with the Line Chief Universal Remote or the Line Chief app via Bluetooth. The front locomotive has 2 motors, and of course a whole sound system in with it, and 2 spoke units. The tender is actually a super bass unit back there, so we get even more sound out of it. We have all LED lighting, a electric coupler on the front of the locomotive, the rear of the locomotive, and then the rear of the auxiliary tender. And the turbine is actually right here. It's the middle smoke unit. That actually does not run constant, so we'll see about speed step 15. The turbine will actually kick in. We'll hear a lot of the sounds, and that's when that smoke unit puts out a big plume of smoke. One of the really cool things, and of course we'll get into this later, we can actually turn that off. Union Pacific actually found out it's very cost effective because it used so much fuel that when you were going downhill to turn off the turbine, because they could just use the momentum of the train to coast downhill, and then when they got to the bottom of the hill, they'd start the turbine back up and keep moving along. Let's go in for a closer look. Looking at the front of the locomotive here, starting right up top, we have 2 separately applied horns. They look great. They're painted the same color as the rest of the body, so they actually kind of blend in. It isn't a bad thing. We do have a plastic insert here in the cab for the front glass, a anti-glare green hood, which looks amazing for the front of the locomotive. Up front here we have a Mars light, and it's an operating Mars light, and then we have our headlight. Hopefully I didn't get those backwards. If not, everybody can complain to me in the comments. Our number boards here are illuminated, so they'll light up as soon as we apply track power. We do have operating marker lights on either side of the hood, and those will only come on when we go into reverse, and they're only red. Moving down, we have this beautiful looking UP logo with the wings on it. That looks amazing. And then moving down, of course we have our F, because the FRA says we have to know which end's the front of the locomotive. Explain this logic. Anyway, and then we have the big pilot area. Be one thing to note, one thing we have to deal with on 3-rail O scale a lot is the big pilots that come out from underneath the body of the frame of the locomotive. It looks really unprototypical. Actually, in this case, this would be completely prototypical because the actual one actually did this. So this is one of the few spots where that's actually correct. Now, probably the overhang would be quite a bit less on the real prototype, but that's besides the point at this point. Further down, we do have an operating electrocoupler that can be fired from the legacy TMCC remote or your line chief remote, universal remote, line chief app, basically any way you have command control. There are KD mounts that come with this, so if you want to change this for a KD scale coupler or any of the couplers for that matter, you can do that as well. Looking at the cab here, as you can see right there, that cab light is literally just pops through the wall. Kind of weird, but you know, it is what it is. It's probably where they could fit the light. Kind of different. But there's actually 3 crew figures in here, which really surprised me. Originally, I didn't even notice there was 3 crew figures in here because I had 2 on each side. But I got to picking this thing up, and I guess the 3rd crewman must have dropped a quarter or something, and he was wanting his loose change back because he was rattling around on the floor. I don't know why. I went back in there, put him back where he belonged. I'm not sure why Lionel chose to put 3 crew figures in here. That might be completely prototypical. I don't know, though. I mean, we're talking 50s, 60s, so we could still have a front brakeman. Being a big turbine locomotive, it might have just simply needed a 3rd crewman. I don't know for sure. If anybody does, please leave a comment down below, just that way I know. Going down the side of the locomotive now, we see our veranda walkway, where it got its name from. We have ladders right here on this truck here, so that comes right up, and that way you can get up here on the walkway. Everything in here looks to be just cast in, nothing crazy. This would, from what I would understand to believe, would be from the original tooling Lionel had. So it is older tooling, so there's going to be a little more cast in than separately applied, but everything still looks really nice. Everything's recessed to the point where you'd have to know. The Union Pacific looks very crisp. We have a red stripe down low and a red stripe up top that are very straight. Again, look amazing. Right down here we have our tiny fuel tank. Of course, in there is where our speaker and IR sensor and everything is. But this would hold diesel for the little diesel helper unit. That way they could use that instead of the big turbine in the yards and everything. Our trucks here are the UP Silver, and again, cast-in frames, nothing crazy going on with these, but they really still do look pretty great. So we flipped the locomotive around, we're looking at the back side here. As far as is continuing for the back end here, we do have a real huge and crisp UP logo, which looks pretty great, and then another number 69 right here. Moving around for the back though, we do have a backup light right here on the locomotive itself. We have a non-opening door cast into the shell right here. It's got a little porthole in it, so that looks pretty nice. Nice looking ladder that's been separately applied. We have our metal chain, all of our stuff around here, our handbrake wheel, and you know, this walkway here does have safety tread on it, so that all looks really nice. Down here we do have a operating electrocoupler. You know, you'd be normally attached to the super base tender, but if you wanted to, and I believe it would be prototypical, you could just run this as a separate unit. So they have an electrocoupler right there on the end of the locomotive as well. Looking at the top of the locomotive here now, again, we got a lot of cast-in stuff here, but that doesn't look bad. There's those horns we saw earlier. We have another, looks like it probably an air conditioning box that sits there. Not PTC. We're not that advanced yet to have PTC on a Veranda turbine. Moving back, we do have there's a lot of these bigger pipes that they've separately applied on here, which look pretty cool. Moving on, again, we have this. This is a raised area. More molded-in details, lift rings, and so forth. We have our big stack here. This is where one smoke unit is, and to load smoke fluid, we're going to pour fluid directly down the stack at literally that angle. This is literally going into the smoke unit right here. This is a really huge funnel, so if you actually don't get the fluid in the smoke unit, it kind of sits in this big flat funnel. So if you tip the locomotive over, you might spill it everywhere. So I would really recommend getting a needle point applicator that way you can get straight down in there where the smoke fluid belongs. Moving back, we have, again, another kind of a molded in area back here behind the stack. I mean, you know, we have some decent molded in grates and lift rings and rivets and so forth. Everything looks really nice. This right here is actually a lift up piece held on by some magnets. That way it doesn't come off until you take it off. And underneath there is the enormous amount of switches that we have that controls a lot of stuff on the locomotive. So the locomotive is designed to be run either under one TMCC ID with the locomotive and tender, or you can run it under 2 separate IDs. Along with that, and or if you run using Bluetooth via the universal remote or the app, we have some different switches that allow us to turn stuff on and off with that you would normally be able to do when you set up a lash up and so forth. So first and foremost, we have a run program switch, set our TMCC ID, go on from there. Moving over, we have our BLE, that's Bluetooth Low Energy is what they're calling it. And so that's our Bluetooth on-off switch. We have our SMK on-off switch. I don't remember now. We have an SMK on-off and an aux SMK on-off. I want to say aux is the turbine smoke unit and the regular smoke is our rear diesel smoke unit. But don't quote me on that because I don't remember for sure. Moving along, we have a signal on-off. So this is going to be our horn. So that way, if we wanted the horn to just come from the super bass unit, we could turn this on or off. Moving along, we have a dialogue on and off. Again, if this lets us choose where we want the dialogue to come from. It could come from here, or it could come from the super bass unit. Again, this is all stuff that we could do if we set this up under a TMCC legacy lash up. But this allows us to use one TMCC ID, not waste 2 TMCC IDs, and still be able to turn all this stuff on and off, whether we need it or not, or don't. And then, of course, in a Bluetooth environment where you actually can't set any of these parameters. The other switch we have is the rear coupler on and off. So this just simply disengages that rear electrocoupler. That way, again, even in a legacy environment, we can't hit the rear coupler and lose our tender to the rest of the train because we hit our rear coupler. So they've really thought everything through. Hides underneath this wonderfully looking hatch. You don't even know it's there. Moving back, again, more grates. Me and Chris were just talking. I don't know what this is, but it actually looks really cool. It's kind of a nice, neat box, really great grates. So, I mean, this thing has to be separately applied. I don't see how that's molded in. Anyway, moving on. We have more pipes and so forth here. So this big long pipe right here, I've had the shell off. So I actually know that this right here is our TMCC legacy antenna. So it's not the handrails on this one. It's going to be this pipe right here. So if you ever have any of those issues, make sure this doesn't touch the frame ground, because that will kill your legacy TMCC signal to the locomotive. Moving back, this is our smoke unit for the rear diesel, small diesel prime mover. Again, it's kind of a weird funnel, and naturally this sits over right where the board is inside the unit. So you really don't want to overfill this unit, this smoke unit, because that'll dump smoke fluid on your main control board. But again, kind of a bigger, not huge, but a bigger flattish funnel. So again, needle point dispenser goes straight down into that smoke unit. That way the smoke fluid goes and stays where it belongs. Okay, we got the locomotive flipped over here. Naturally, I managed to forget my engine cradle, so we got some nice pieces of foam and I get to hold this. Anyway, starting up front here, so the 2 outside trucks, so these 2 right here are non-powered. So these are just free spinning wheels, pickup rollers. Of course, when you get this, make sure you put a dab of oil on all the axles. That way you get them all lubricated and ready to roll. We have 4 center rail pickup rollers, so we get good electrical contact. As you can see, actually, so the whole trucks, they move as one piece and then they move independently on top of that. So that's really where your minimum curve comes in, because the motor is still attached to our 2 inner trucks here. So they can't move too terribly far inside there. Another mention was to double check some of the truck screws here. That way they don't fall off the frame. A couple of them must have showed up with some looser screws. I didn't have that problem, just thought I'd mention it. Moving along, of course, we do have some our exposed gears. So these 4 axles are driven. Usually put a little bit of grease. You don't need a lot, just a little bit of grease. That way those all stay nice and lubricated. The other thing with those is our 2 outside axles of the inside trucks. Very specific here, but it'd be this axle. So these 2 wheels and these 2 are the ones with traction tires. So we have 4 traction tires for some great pulling power on this locomotive. Our sensor for the LCS sensor track, our speaker, Bluetooth legal mumbo jumbo, more FCC mumbo jumbo, and our legacy serial number. Okay, so now we get to check out the cool Super Bass auxiliary tender. So these things were, of course, based off of, I believe these would be the FEF1's tenders. A lot of the 484 FEF1 through FEF3 tenders were converted into auxiliary tenders for the gas turbine electric locomotives. But anyway, so that's kind of what we're supposed to be resembling here anyway. Right up front, we have a operating regular O-gauge coupler. So that's just thumbtack, opens and closes. I actually would rather had just a dummy O-scale coupler because this thing is weak and I had a rubber band on it that broke, so I need to get a zip tie or something on there because this thing naturally is what opens up when I'm pulling a train around the layout. It's not a car, it's this right here. A little annoying, but anyway, moving on. Everything else on here, we do have some good separately applied ladders, brake wheel. We have another step ladder here. Again, this is a little older tooling, so if you set this right next to something that would have just recently been tooled, you can kind of notice some differences in how they did things. Side frames, nice silver. They look great. Nothing crazy there. We do have a nice big Union Pacific. The UP61, which was the other prototypical option, had a small lettered Union Pacific up top here, rather than the big Union Pacific that was across here. So it's a big billboard type deal. We have nice pinstriped red lines on either side of the armor yellow. So everything just looks great. Up top is our handrails up here. This is, again, our legacy antenna. So these things are abnormally tall, it seems like to me anyway. They probably scale, but they're just taller, so you got to be careful when you pick it up because this is your antenna for the legacy and TMCC command system. Looking at the back now, down at the bottom we have our operating electrocoupler here, which again, of course, can be operated via TMCC Legacy Bluetooth, which includes the app or the Lion Chief Universal Remote. Again, ladders, grab irons. We do have a backup light right here. I'm not sure if they just didn't want to go through the effort to put a reflector in there or what's with the big housing but tiny little LED. Kind of weird, but again, like I said, older tooling, you kind of can notice some differences. It didn't really look that bad. If you wanted to, you could probably put a lens on that and make that a nice looking reflector. Gives you something to do on a rainy day. Moving down, we do have a nice crisp UP number 69 on the back right here. Looking on the bottom of our auxiliary tender here, we can see all of our fun switches we get to have for it. So just like the locomotive, we have a run program switch, our Bluetooth on-off switch. So this actually acts on Bluetooth. If anybody wants to know how the Bluetooth works here, the main turbine operates as the Bluetooth master card. That's what your phone or universal remote is going to connect to. And then that will slave any commands over to this Bluetooth card inside the tender. So that way everything is coherent and all happens all at the same time. Along with that, we do have our signal on-off switch. So again, we can turn the horn sounds inside the tender on and off, along with dialogue. So this is actually the biggest one. I leave this off. That way I don't hit a button and get dialogue out of both the locomotive and the tender. Not really sure why we needed all dialogue in the tender to begin with. But you know what? It's in there. You can have it if you want it. I won't ever use it. I don't know anybody else that was, but if you do, more power to you. Other than that, everything's pretty basic. I did open this up just out of curiosity. This actually uses the new board that's in the locomotives, so that way it has the Bluetooth card and everything on it. just in case you were curious how that worked. It's not a separate soundboard. It's really a full-fledged board on the inside there. But other than that, this is a standard tender, so needlepoint axles, make sure you oil those. Hit your pickup rollers. So we do have 2 center rail pickup rollers. I guess one thing to note with that board being in there, there is no way to add any extra battery or capacitance. So if you do go over a switch and had some dead spots, you're going to lose some sound out of your super bass unit, which kind of sucks. I don't know if I've noticed anything yet, but it could theoretically happen. Okay, we've moved over to the other layout, a little bit more friendly to the Veranda, and you guys get to see some of the progress on the new layout. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our latest layout update video. I'll put that link popping up at the right-hand corner of your screen now. Let's go ahead, start it up, list some of the sounds.
This is the dispatcher. Start up and hold. Over. Okay, let's get to work. Out.
Okay, as you can see immediately, our number boards are lit. We have our dual beam headlight and our Mars light. You guys might see that kind of looking kind of rough as that Mars light goes in and out. That's actually how it looks on here. That's not any artifact from the video or anything. It's not near as smooth as I would have liked it to look, or how it normally would look from other versions of boards and so forth. That's probably my biggest complaint on this whole locomotive. Anyway, let's listen to the horn. That's with both the turbine and the super bass unit going. This thing does have 5 horns, so that's our first horn. Let's go to our next one. A little higher pitch. Third. Because apparently we needed a K5LA on the turbine. I don't know. Here's our fourth. Another one. And a third one. And now we get our original horn back. We do have the same thing with the bell. So, standard bell. Second bell. Third bell. Fourth bell. This will be our 5th bell, right? I hope. If I can't count, it's okay. And I think this is back to our original. I don't know very many people that change bell sounds. If you guys do, let me know. Again, there's the rear coupler. Our rear coupler through back here. Everything's still attached. This is running everything under engine 69 is how I have this set up. I guess we could go ahead and turn on the smoke unit. We should start getting smoke out of our rear smokestack back here. There it starts going a little bit. Hopefully it shows up on camera for you guys. But we'll go ahead and listen. There's a couple, we have our standard crew talk. So,
Dispatcher, we're ready. Is it okay to pull? Over. Please stand by. Out.
That's our fun, controversial, generic Lionel crew talk. There is also, they do have the new train sound, so our number 7 key actually gets us some different sounds. We'll listen to some of those.
I'm going to be here for a while. Timetable has us holding here for number 9, and she's running about 20 minutes late. 26:35, and he won't be out of here for an hour and a half, 2 hours. You mean, okay, alrighty. That call anyways, later on? Okay, thank you.
Again, some different kind of sounds. Don't know if, some people might say, well, they didn't have radios in the cab at this point in time, so you know what? You just use what you guys like. So one thing I did forget to talk about earlier was there is an emergency light built into the Mars light. So I'll actually back it up here a little bit. We'll do that. We can see our marker lights turn on. Can't see the other one, but I promise you it's on. Go backwards here a little bit. Back up just a smidge, just enough to get a running start. Go forward, and while we're going, if I go ahead and hit the 5 key, which would be our emergency stop sequence.
Dispatcher, Dispatcher here, come to a full stop.
We get
Emergency stop, acknowledge.
you get our emergency stop information. That's
Dispatcher, stop short, over. Good work. Dispatcher out.
probably a little hard for you guys to see. I'm going to turn off the Mars light, and you should probably be able to see that a little better. There is an actual red LED inside there as well that we have until we start moving again. So from the moment I hit the 5 key while we're moving until I start moving again, we'll have a red light flashing. Kind of hard to see, which kind of sucks, but with the Mars on anyway. But the Mars off, it's a little easier to see. All right, we got a train hooked up now finally, and we'll go ahead and take it for a quick spin around the layout.
Dispatcher, are we still clear all the way? Over. Yep, all clear ahead. Dispatcher out.
Hit the air. They got full boards up on the bridge.
So as you guys just saw, this thing looks and sounds amazing. The super bass extra help makes a huge difference. The extra smoke unit, just seeing a big plume of smoke come out of there when you hit speed step 15, it's just amazing. This locomotive is it's very stout. The locomotive itself, has to weigh at least 17 pounds. It's heavier than my big boy. It's insane, really. If you guys hadn't already checked out, with the super bass, if you like the super bass, check out our last video. I'll pop that up on the screen, and that was of a UP E9 ABA. So we had the super bass B unit in there, and that was again that super bass unit. I hope it comes through the videos as well as it does here in person. I really didn't never think when I saw some videos that it would do much, but it makes a huge difference. Chris, do you have anything else to add?
I don't have much. You explained it pretty much, and just an amazing looking locomotive. One of my favorite parts probably is the plume of smoke that comes out, and then the green hood, because it stands out and just puts the whole paint job and completes it all together as one.
Yeah. The anti-glare green hood is it's necessary on a car body front end of a UP engine. They had a number of different paint schemes, like I already mentioned. And one of them was a fantasy flagged version, and I had actually thought about getting that. The only issue is, fantasy, you got to debate that. That's going to be everybody's personal opinion there. I thought it looked really cool. The only issue is they put a gray hood on it. It didn't work for me. It didn't work with a gray hood. It killed the whole design. When you have a car body UP diesel design, it's got to have an anti-glare green hood. So these actually MSRP'd right around $1,650. Kind of steep. They're all die-cast, though. I mean, you could probably see where that comes from. If you walked into a store and picked one up, if they let you pick it up, I don't know if I would. But it's you know, they were MSRP right at $1,650. If you went through any good Lionel dealer, they probably give you a little bit of discount on that MSRP price. I think a lot of them were probably closer around $1,400, give or take. Of course, right now, these things delivered in late December of 2021, so finding one now might be kind of hard. But if you do, again, they're a great locomotive. They are a minimum curve of 072. Truly believe in that. It's a long, rigid frame locomotive. You'll really need that 072 to go with it. There was a couple notice issues with these when they first came out. Mine actually, you might have saw a couple of the reefers might have looked a little damaged, and that was because this thing took off like a rocket on our new layout here, within like 30 minutes of running. Only version I don't know if this ever happening. I bet, you know, honestly, it was probably just bad, you know, weak components on the board. Everything's getting cranked out so fast over there in China that, you know, what's quality control anymore? But Lionel took care of me. I got it sent back. They covered shipping. You know, all the folks over there are great, and it's worked great ever since. So there's no problem with that. If you have problems, don't be afraid to call Lionel. Just be calm with them, and they'll take care of you. This concludes our review on the Lionel Legacy Veranda Turbine. If you like this video, please be sure to go down, hit the like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get all of the information of our product reviews, running train videos, layout updates occasionally, and any of our information on train shows. Don't forget to hit the bell, though, that we actually get the notifications, because YouTube did this weird thing where you have to hit a bell now. It makes zero sense to me. Anyway, if you don't do any of that, be sure to check us out on Facebook. We post a lot of stuff on any and all train shows we might be hosting or attending there. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.
And that was so smooth. Oh my god.
This is amazing.
Dang it.